Coming from a 20-year background with a firm that's arguably been the #1 firm in the world for more than 50 years, my obsession is it's time for the next one. In 2019, I started Tuber Capital with this goal, ultimately, of building something I could really be proud of as a legacy and that would have a ripple effect affecting so many different people. I think we figured out a formula that can be achieved.
We invest in human health. We invest in ethical data sharing. We invest in cybersecurity. These are the durable problems that people care deeply about and will care deeply about for the next 50 years.
The advances that are going to unlock new discoveries and unlock new therapies are going to come out of the combination of information technology and traditional molecular biology and chemistry.
And so over and over, you'll see this theme through many of the companies in our portfolio where we're combining technology, but we're applying it to a deep scientific problem that was intractable before. But the combination of the two together allow us to make progress.
What gets me up in the morning is knowing that the work that I'm doing is helping to support companies who have this grand mission of helping other people.
We have one of the best venture capital investors in the game, Mike, and the alchemy of that plus a corral of deep domain experts is really special.
We are career scientists and researchers. We have access to the founders that no one else would ever find because they don't know that they're founders yet.
You cannot cure cancer with a single shot. You need to have an objective view. You need to have a scientific foundation. And that's what we have with Tuber Capital. That actually helps us build the company more efficiently.
The level of deep due diligence that went on before there was any sort of commitment made was unlike any other firm.
When you go in and you ask very hard, very technical questions, they know that you get it. And what this means is that they may give us a little more equity.
The culture at Tuber is one of the most simultaneously intimidating and exciting cultures I've ever gotten to be involved in. And it's so refreshing to know that all of your peers are absolute rock stars in their chosen field.
The perfect combo is razor-sharp logic underneath and then really good people EQ, human connection on top.
We are creative thinkers. The leadership is really receptive to being able to pursue those creative ideas.
We collaborate within the firm to ensure that if there is a market opportunity, if there is a customer opportunity for any of those customers, that collectively we all help.
Working with Tuber Capital is very, very reassuring for me as a first-time CEO that as I am getting ready to take on the world, to take on the internet, there's somebody who's always going to back me. And it's a phenomenal experience for an entrepreneur.
Rather than trying to extract value, we partner with them to create value together.
They have helped us with business development, introductions to top talent, introductions to customers, bringing us in touch with strategic investors, go-to-market strategy, and all of this represents a hallmark for an exceptional VC and a true partner.
We are making a difference in the world by allocating capital and being good strategic partners, but we're also, stewards of that capital.
The opportunity to be part of that LP family and to learn and have a front row seat to the future of health and science is pretty exciting.
To have massive breakthroughs in problems that haven't been solved for so long involving human health, technology, uplifting society. The ingredients are there. If the passion's there, the background's there, if the people you bring in, you just have to do it.
Well, thanks for that, guys. My name is Mike Goguen. I'm the founder and managing partner of Tuber Capital. And as you might have figured out from the video, we're an early stage venture capital firm we define ourselves as focusing at this intersection, growing intersection of technology and life sciences. And we focus heavily on finding these brilliant, passionate founders who have breakthrough ideas tackling some of the most important and urgent problems in human health, human disease, where technology can just make things better. And we are so pleased to have you here with us, joining us. Thank you for this. We are here because we are doing our grand opening of our office in New York City. And this will join our offices. We have locations already, and our investment team is spread across the country. We have offices in Boston, Silicon Valley, San Diego, New York now, and our headquarters is in beautiful Whitefish, Montana, if anyone wants to visit. But why New York? Why are we here? We believe this is where it's at. We believe this is where it's happening, growing, incredibly vibrant. The community that's already built of technology and life sciences leaders is one that we've already benefited from. We have one of our star companies, who you'll hear from the CEO, Server Etrem, on the panel a little bit later on. Kind of a breakthrough oncology company right here in this building. And we want to contribute heavily to this ecosystem. In fact, why we chose our headquarters office location to be here in particular, Alexandria Life Science Center, is we feel like this is kind of the center, the nucleus of the ecosystem. So we're looking forward to interacting with all of you over the next decades. My team, our LPs, and all of us believe that New York City is the place to be. So thank you all for joining us in this kind of event. The makeup of the crowd, if some of you have seen the name tags and recognize some folks, this is, from what I've just heard, a little unusual to get this kind of great crowd. So we appreciate that, and I think it's because you recognize that this is a good thing. We really want to boost with our capital, the companies we create, and the solutions we help create here in New York City, I think is going to be a good thing for all of us. That is why I'm so pleased and appreciative that Andrew Kimball, the President and CEO of New York City Economic Development Corporation, is with us today. In his previous roles at Industry City, Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corporation, and the New York Public Library, Andrew made vital contributions to the vitality of this city. Through his extensive leadership in NYC EDC, he is growing an innovative and inclusive economy for all New Yorkers, one that Tudor Capital is excited and proud to be part of. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Mike, for that generous introduction. You know, they say if you can make it in Whitefish, you can make it anywhere. And even though we're your fourth city, as you said, you're in the big time now. So we're just thrilled to have you here. You know, Mayor Adams, who I bring greetings from, and selected me for this role. EDC is not a government agency. We're a private not-for-profit that for 30 years in New York has been driving innovation sectors. And I was lucky enough to work with the mayor for 20 years on the Brooklyn waterfront. This is a guy who gets technology. He gets the intersection of science and tech, the explosion of AI, the enormous opportunity that this presents us in New York City at this moment, with over 40,000 AI experts alone, with tremendous academic institutions, and thrilled that Orin Herskowitz is here, one of the many institutions, Columbia, that we partner with, so many folks from NYU here. You know, we are focused on high growth, high wage sectors in New York. So life sciences, obviously one of them, the green economy, another, tech more broadly, fintech, film and television, gaming, another. We focus on these sectors because they're high wage, they're high growth. We focus not just on driving job creation, but on creating equitable pathways into those sectors. And this is working. And it's working in life sciences. You see in the last 5 years, really a doubling in the number of biotech companies in New York, a doubling in the employment in New York. You see tremendous growth in our metro region. Department of City Planning, EDC, did a study recently that showed that our metro region exceeds the metro region of San Francisco and Boston, LA, in terms of life sciences investment. But we know in the 5 boroughs we have work to do. We have work to catch up to Boston and San Francisco to make our own mark, and we really think it's going to be around tech-forward life sciences, and that's why having companies like 2Bear here is so important. We have $1 billion of investments right now ongoing in the life science sector. This is in loans, this is in grants, this is in tax breaks, this is in supporting an unbelievable network of incubators and accelerators. It's in career pathway programs. We're super proud to just toast the 700th intern through our life sciences program, run by a tremendous life sciences team at EDC led by Sue Rosenthal, who's here tonight. So important that we continue to build these partnerships across sector, public sector, private sector, academia. In terms of real estate, and at the end of the day, we have to do a lot of real estate in New York. We have an enormous amount of activity happening. We're so proud to be in this second Alexandria building. Alexandria was a real trailblazer here in New York, and John Cunningham and his partners deserve enormous credit for what they've built here and really driving the life sciences sector. And we're hopeful we're going to get another building started with him soon. On top of that, we're going to be adding over 2 million square feet of space on the Spark campus, the old Hunter nursing school, bringing 3 CUNY schools, a 2-year, a 4-year, and a graduate school, all focused on life sciences and public health careers, a DOE school focused on STEM education around life sciences with 1 million square feet of private biotech on that space. That's catty-corner to 455 First Avenue, where Taconic and Devesco are going to be building close to 500,000 square feet of private space. And that's just a few blocks from Deerfield that's up and running already. We believe the Kips Bay District can rival Kendall Square. We do this by bringing in lots of smart people to the table through our Life Science Advisory Committee, the best eds and meds in town, with investors and leaders like Maria Gotsch, who you'll also hear from soon. We also bring the real estate community to the fore to really guide us with these investments. But you can build all the space in the world. It doesn't matter unless you fill it with interesting companies, and that's what today is all about. We're so thrilled to have 2Bear here. We're so thrilled that they're investing in companies like Sanavia, who, by the way, was birthed at one of the incubators that we've supported, NYU Biolabs, and we're thrilled with that partnership. So the future is bright here. Interest rates may be high, VC investment a little slower than we would want, but it is coming back, and we are laying the groundwork now for tremendous growth in the future. And I just want to thank everybody in this room for the role that you're playing in building this industry in New York. Thank you.
Well, welcome, everybody. This is exciting. I'm Mark Adams. I'm based out of the office here in New York City as a venture partner at 2Bear Capital. Andrew, thank you for joining us. That was really amazing, and it's very exciting. EDC's leadership is one of the main reasons that the life science and technology industries are growing like they are in New York City and making it a real success story. I'll say I'm not giving up my Boston Red Sox hat, just letting you know. Let's make it a contest, guys. As Mike said, 2Bear Capital is excited to contribute to this continued growth, which is why the panel today is focused on the importance of life sciences, innovation, and investment in New York City and beyond. So let me introduce you to our panel participants. Come on up, guys. You can sit where you want, I guess. This is a sit where you want. So we'll start over here. Orin Herskowitz is the Senior Vice President of Applied Innovation and Industry Partnerships at Columbia University. Welcome, Orin. Looks like Maria Gotsch, the President and CEO for the Partnership of New York City. Serva Etrem is the CEO of Sanavia. You heard a little bit about it. You got to see him in the video. That was pretty exciting. And then my goodness, Jenna Foger. I hope I got that pronounced right. Jenna Foger is the Senior Vice President and Co-Head Lead Science and Technology for Alexandria Real Estate. And I think we can thank for the amazing facilities we've got here. And then finally, thank you to our moderator, Jennifer Bland, the CEO of NewYorkBIO. So thank you to the panel. And thank you for being with us today. Jennifer, I'll let you take it away.
Great, thank you so much. All right, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is ready for a lively discussion about how wonderful New York is. So let's have a conversation. Yes, we all think New York is wonderful, and if any of you tune in with any regularity to our NewYorkBIO virtual breakfast series, you know that one of the requirements of appearing as a guest on it is to talk about how wonderful New York is as an ecosystem. So it hasn't always been wonderful, right? We've built something relatively new here, but with a lot of staying power. So I want to open it up sort of generally first. So let's talk about what are the things that we did right over the last, say, 15 years to get us to the point where we can have these conversations today. Jenna, I'll start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much to Bear, Mike, and the team for having us here. This is an amazing event and amazing turnout for a Tuesday night. So I think what we did right, 15 years ago, would we have this here, this many people from so many different, places? I think that speaks for itself. So that's one, but I'd say, when I'm a New Yorker, born and raised, was in Rockefeller working in Nat Heinz's neurobiology lab, and he was spinning out a company from his lab in 2009. And that company had nowhere to go. And so they basically offered me a job out of, I was a couple years out of graduate school at that time, and they said, do you want to go work for the company? And I said, well, I want to stay in New York. They said, there's nowhere to go. And I think, now obviously if that had happened in 2023, there would be many places to go. And I think that's huge. I think the, investment that has come here, both in terms of, new venture dollars here, the companies that are truly, truly, truly homegrown out of institutions like Columbia, but every single institution now has companies locally represented. I think the talent is something we're still working on, but because there's great companies and great science, the talent has come. And then, obviously, real estate, and not just a building that can operate a lab, but really bespoke real estate offerings, not to be overly gratuitous, but like we have here at Launch Labs, our science hotel, that are really custom built for the appropriate size companies to really nurture this extremely homegrown community that we have here, are among some of them.
Sure.
I think what we did right is we made it possible for scientists like myself, who were aspiring founders, to be able to make it in New York and stay in New York. And the New York, I think what we've done right is we built a life science ecosystem with people, with real estate, with investors. And throughout the journey of building Sanavia, getting funded, building the team now, the city supported me a lot as a founder at the beginning. And then after Sanavia was born, it also supported Sanavia in so many ways. I would say, as a scientist, I would want to know how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a founder. Even the entrepreneurship training programs were extremely helpful to me. The events that we get together and talk to people about building companies. I was at a program at Cornell Tech, a runway startup program, where they teach you how to become an entrepreneur. That was a big piece of that. And then when I started having ideas, they also taught me how to go and talk to my customers and learn about their top-of-mind jobs. And when I thought that I had something, I needed a place to be, to start a bench. And that's where the city again came to our help, and we won the first, I think, the BMS Golden Ticket Award 3 years ago. So we were housed at BioLabs for a year without paying any rent. And I think that's one of the reasons that convinced our investors that we were resourceful and we were supported by the community. And beyond that, the New York City EDC Life Science team sponsored us to go talk to investors. I could go to BioCEO investor conferences, to JP Morgan, not to go close deals, but to learn how to shape the story. So I think when we met the right investor, we were ready for that step. And obviously, when we were moving out from BioLabs, Alexandria provided for us to have a home here, but also the talent pool that we have in New York City was there for us. So we were able to actually recruit 10 postdoc PhDs from Rockefeller, Memorial Sloan Kettering, Weill Cornell, Columbia University, who are willing to come and join our team. So it's not just, I think one thing, it's just the community that makes this possible for scientists like myself to be able to follow their dreams. But also the first time I met Sue Rosenthal from NYC EDC, I said we would want to make it in New York. We would want to be the next Regeneron, and we would want the resources so that if things are going well, you guys would be there for us. So for Sanavia, we would need larger spaces, we would need manufacturing facilities, vivariums, and that's what I see. Alexandria and other companies are already seeing what we're going to need, so they're preparing that for us.
That's great, thanks. Maria? Without uncovering too many skeletons in the early closet.
Yeah, well, I'll leave the skeletons aside. So a couple things. We took the long view. We realized this was not going to be done in 2 years. It was going to be a 20-year effort, which it has been. The second thing is we realized it was a complex problem. There was not just one thing wrong. It wasn't just real estate. It wasn't just lack of money. It wasn't just talent. It was the combination of all those gaps that we had to come up, and I'll get to who the we is, that we had to come up with solutions for each of those gaps at the same time. I likened building biotech in New York to pushing an elephant forward. You had to push a different part of the elephant every day to get the elephant to move forward. And that's how elephants go, is not just with one kick, with multiple pushes. And then I think the third, and probably the most important, is this was a true public-private partnership. There was a lot of yakking out there. There's a lot of, talking about public-private partnerships, but truly, from 2001, this has been a public-private partnership. After 9/11 happened, the only meeting that we kept as an organization that was not around relief after 9/11 was a meeting that was hosted by Sandy Weil and Russ Carson with all the deans of the academic medical centers to talk about the importance of thinking about the New York economy post 9/11 of building a biotech industry. And so it was sort of where it started, with that leadership, bringing to the table and working very closely with the city and the state. The universities eventually showed up in a big way to support entrepreneurship. But it was really the city and the state and our organization saying, all right, we want to do this, and these are the resources that we need, and helping to put those in place. And I'm going to turn it to the university side.
No, I'm actually going to agree, which I usually do with Maria. So I do a lot of work on this question of ecosystem development around the country. So in addition to my role at Columbia, I do work with the Commerce Department and some folks down in DC and also some other countries around how do you build an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And it is amazing to me, after 20 years of doing this in New York, that New York has gone from why hasn't New York succeeded yet, to how can we be the next New York City? Around the world. And I know we still here in New York may have some inferiority complexes about some of our local neighbors, but I do think the city has changed. And when I think back about, when I answer the question about how that's happened, a lot of the credit, I think, comes to the Partnership for New York City, the New York City Economic Development Corporation, and the New York State Empire State Development. But basically, was an incredibly thorough and logical and long-viewed approach to trying to identify all the problems New York had and systematically address them one at a time and bring the community together around them. So I think that a lot of the credit goes to you and to Sue and her predecessors and Andrew and his predecessors. And then the other thing is, I have seen, it is rare for a place with sharp elbows like New York. The community of people here that have been working together for decades now to make this happen. I'm just going to, just as a show of hands, how many folks 5 years ago would say they were helping to make the New York City life science or deep tech ecosystem stronger in the room? Okay, keep your hands up. How many people were doing this for 10 years or more? So people here really are working hard at this and working hard at it for a long time in a dedicated way. And so I think it's those two things together have really made this a success that it is.
And so we've had public-private partnership, we've had real estate, we have entrepreneurs. Orin, talk to us a little bit about a shift at the academic level in encouraging, teaching, making entrepreneurs. Whereas maybe before, maybe there was a perception that you spun out the tech and sent it off somewhere else. Those cities which won't be named.
Interject with one tee up, Orin. When we did our first report about the possibility for biotech in 1999-2000, what I heard from the venture community about the universities in town was not printable, so we did not print it. Which shows you what a tremendous progress New York has made, because now there's fabulous things that Orin's not going to talk about.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of reasons behind this. I won't take up too much time on the panel. I think there's a lot of things that are just exogenous trends that the universities have sort of been along for the ride on. Our students, our graduate students, our postdocs, and our faculty all want to be entrepreneurs. The federal government and the science funding agencies are measuring startups that are coming out of the research that they fund. And especially the larger, like engineering research center grants or the CTSA grants that the NIH does, they are tracking how much are you teaching and producing entrepreneurs and startups coming out of that. And so I think part of this is just that there's been a rising tide towards entrepreneurship that you see across the country. I do feel like the institutions in New York have been super responsive to this. Part of it is the constant nudging from Maria and her colleagues in the city and state government to make us do this. But I do think over the years, the universities have realized if you want to attract and retain the best faculty, if you want to have an impact on your communities, if you want to lift your whole region and create a better place to be, that all brings benefits back to the institutions in terms of keeping the best people and attracting the best people. So I think it's been intentional. I think, and the universities have really been, and there's more and more evidence of this and some more coming up soon, but the universities are working together in a really interesting way to make this a better place.
And also, if I can, I mean, and unique to New York, and we've studied, all of the life science hubs across the country specifically, New York is really the most homegrown from academic medical centers, bar none. So you don't have even Regeneron, we love Regeneron, but it's not like they've spun out companies really that have come here, which is the trend that you see in a lot of other of the core hubs. The best companies, and almost all of them, but certainly the best companies, the most prolific companies in this town are from academic medical centers.
So yeah, just by way of example, I got to Columbia 17 years ago. And at the time, we were doing 4 or 5 deep tech startups a year. At this point, we're doing 25 to 30 deep tech startups a year. And just in the last 5 years alone, and this is not to brag about Columbia, I think our peers, I see Mark Sadam in the audience from NYU and others, those companies have raised about $600 million a year over each of the last 5 years, including in a down market. So that's $3 billion raised at a $9 billion valuation just for Columbia alone. And almost all of our startups that are starting now are starting in New York and staying in New York and growing in New York. And that's really a change.
The other phenomenon that I think life sciences was able to draft on was the growth of New York's tech sector, which is, are obviously relevant to this evening. 20 years ago, go back to 1998, 99, New York was nothing in tech. I mean, we were bumping along at about 7 or 8, not paying attention. And we built our tech sector starting with applied technology. There was no engineering coming out of the universities. We were taking the internet and putting stuff on the internet, media, data, exchanges. And it was a not long, but it was like a 12 to 15-year journey where New York went from applied technology to actually creating original technology, enterprise, et cetera. And so life sciences is sort of the logical then thing that follows that. And so I think that's why, what our hosts are doing is really interesting. And I think this combination of the growth that New York's had in the tech sector, because we have closed that gap with Silicon Valley dramatically, if you think about 15 years ago. And that plus the biomedical research, which is the largest IP asset that the universities in New York City have, that combination, I mean, we certainly think that is a way for New York to distinguish itself from other centers where you've got these things happening. And it's still, I think, small enough where you don't have like an entrenched tech sector, entrenched life sciences, and there the twain shall meet. We're a little bit more fluid, right? We don't quite have the, oh, I don't do that because I do this. We've got, still small enough that people can talk to each other and connect with each other. So that ability to sort of tap the technology sector of New York, I think, is really a unique asset we have.
Well, and look at just 2 weeks ago, right? The NYC EDC put out an RFI for tech forward life science, right, information. So they're operationalizing what you're talking about has been in play. Server?
And also scientists, again, going back to academia, the ideas come from the scientists or the professors. They can now see their peers thriving in the biotech sector. Maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there was a stigma that, oh, you're going to the dark side. But now they could see maybe one of the better sciences are also made in the industry as well. That's the culture that we're building in Sanavia and modeling exactly what I saw at Sloan Kettering when I was working with Dr. Lloyd Old and the Ludwig Institute, which was an academic biotech. You would have the academic mindset, you would have the freedom to think, but then once you've discovered something, you would be able to focus it. And now I see our team, they're first in biotech scientists, if you think, but they have been able to adapt to this environment. So there's no fear. But I think one thing our universities can also help with scientists' ideas is partnership with companies like Two Bear Capital to hold their hands, because transition from academia to industry there is no straight path. But if you can hold their hands, then to make sure that we're going to be with you along the way, we're going to de-risk it together, and you're going to learn how to become an entrepreneur and founder. I think New York City is rich of scientists with ideas and opportunities.
So let's stick with that for just a second and drill down a little bit. Talk to us about, as a founder and working with an amazing organization like Two Bear, how are they supporting you, and why is it important that they're supporting you by being here in New York now?
I think so over the last 2.5 years, we've closed 3 rounds of funding, all led by Two Bear Capital and independent investors as well. But I would say that the financial support they provided was the least of it. So it's always the first contact. Actually, they reached out to me, believe it or not. During COVID, we had an investor conference that went virtual. I recorded a presentation, put up, and their general partner, Seth Stratton, reached out to me, and he wanted to learn more. And I think that first contact is very important, because for entrepreneurs, they might think I have 20 minutes to give my whole story, and that's it. But you could tell Seth and the rest of the Two Bear team was genuinely interested in the science. They wanted to learn. They might invest, they might not invest, but they were interested in the science that we were making. So that makes it very easier to communicate, because it's not a 20-minute pitch. It was a long process. You're picking your partner. And as an entrepreneur, initially, you might think every decision you make is existential. But I think the most important decision you make is to find the right first investor. And then in terms of mission, they encourage us to focus on hard-to-solve problems. So they actually shape our mission with us. And in terms of the vision, I had an idea of where we wanted to be and where Sanavia can be, but working with the Two Bear team, that's orders of magnitude higher right now. So it's not like they provide funding at the right time. They actually show you, this is what you can be. This is where you are at point A, that's the point B, and we're going to help you de-risk it and milestone it and make sure that you get there. In terms of being there for you, they're prepared for success and failure at the same time. I think it's important. It's easier to pull the plug when things are not working out, but it's also not easy to be there when things are going well. I remember going back in one of our board meetings, we have a platform that gives us very high quality targets, and we wanted to focus on 1 or 2 at the beginning, but I went back to them and I said, we have a dozen of targets here, and what should I do? And they said, just go, we'll be with you. And some of the things, one of the things that I've heard a lot about, now I understand it more. One of our first conversations with Mike, he said that I should focus on building a culture of innovation. And I didn't know what that meant, but he gave me a lot of books about it, and we talked about it. And I know what it means. What it means is they actually removed the fear of failure from our team. So there is no fear of making mistakes. There is no fear of speaking your mind because you think you're going to get retribution. But when it comes to innovation, they pushed us to get first in New York instruments in our lab so we can push the boundaries of innovation, because they think when you push the boundaries of innovation, that's where the value is. That's where hard to solve problems get solved. And that's where you create impact for patients. That's where you create impact or value for potential investors. And when we were built as a biotech company, we're building drugs. It's very wet lab focused, but they could also see where we would need in the future. They would say, you will become a data company. These are the data problems that you would have to solve, which I didn't know anything about, but that's why having a fund like 2Bear that actually plays at the intersection of life science and tech was incredibly helpful. They brought security experts, cybersecurity experts to prepare us for the long term. And I think New York is very lucky to have Mark Adams because he knows both areas very well, and he's already supported and given us so much value. So it's not capital, it's probably the least of it. Actually, the things that you learn is the biggest value you can get from your first investor.
So Jenna, as someone who spans both venture investing as well as sort of the real estate, what have you seen the best yield from Alexandria's investments in New York City?
That's a great question. It was not one of the prepared questions. No, I love it. I love it.
Moderator's privilege.
No. So Alexandria, in addition to our real estate arm, we have an on-balance sheet venture fund as well. We're an LP in 2Bear Capital, and we've invested in over 50 companies in New York City over the past decade plus. And so we have a whole team dedicated to that effort as well, in addition to the real estate. So, there's a couple ways to answer that question. I mean, the most successful has been intracellular therapies. We invested in their Series A in 2002. They're a tenant of ours here. They now have 2 FDA approvals in bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. So that's, actual yield, that is, our best. IRR, maybe not so much because it was over such a long period, but they're doing absolutely incredibly now. And most importantly, they've actually had a direct impact on patients. But, there are many others. And like I said, I don't think there is one that I can think of that was not tied to an academic medical center in some way. So maybe that's the best answer. But, to see the innovation, and I'd say this is the opportunity also for 2Bear, to see the innovation, even though, the companies, they don't take up that much space, they're smaller than other, biotech hubs, the quality of companies that we've seen has just continued to tick up. And that is because of, the local programs that have been run, but also because of the gentle hand of some of the venture capitalists that either planted seeds here physically or have had a heavy hand here. So Arch, for example, for a long time through the Accelerator Corporation, they were here and really helped companies along in a very meaningful way. So that has been some of the most meaningful impact that has been had, is when companies or firms like yourself that know how to do this, have done it in such a meaningful way and helped shape. And the one other thing that I'll just say really quick is just dovetailing on the tech bio intersection. It seems like the tech sector and the life science sector in New York City have been running kind of on parallel tracks, both very, prolific in their own right, but they have not intersected really, and certainly not at any, material level. So that's a huge opportunity for 2Bear, given, your know-how here, and would love to see more of that.
I actually just wanted to say a plug for Alexandria here, because there's, they've been amazing supporters of, and I'm not getting paid by Alexandria, but they've been amazing supporters of the ecosystem here across so many different sectors and over such a long time. But not only by, it's rare you find companies that are such stellar landlords and providing such amazing spaces, and are willing to go so early back into the ecosystem. I believe Alexandria is the most frequent venture investor in any Columbia startups. Like, they've done multiples more Columbia startups than any other VC that we work with over the years. But also, there's a video, Henry Colcraft's a faculty member at Columbia, launched a company called StableX. That we did all the support a university can do to bring that company to market, to help Henry and his co-founder Scott Canner. They went through boot camps, they got validation funding, they met with our executives and residents. We tried over and over to help them get to market. The VCs kept telling them it's too early, it's too early, it's too early. And eventually, Mike Norson, an Alexandria employee who runs the launch labs up at Columbia, took a personal interest in this and introduced Henry to the CEO who ended up founding the company and to the investors who ended up doing the raise. And actually, Henry talks about this on a video that he just did with Mike just a couple of weeks ago. It's a phenomenal video. Just like a master class for if you're a life science entrepreneur trying to launch a company, that's the first video you should watch. But anyway, so you guys have been an amazing player in the New York ecosystem.
So Maria, talk about a little bit about some more specifics and sort of public-private partnership. And do you think that New York has done it differently than other areas?
Well, I think we've done it. In other places, it's a lot of talk. So I'll just put that out there. But it was, there was alignment of strategy, right? I think everybody recognized that there was this asset that was not being leveraged for economic. It was certainly, there was a certain amount of licensing happening to the pharmaceutical industry, but there was not an emphasis on creating companies that would stay here and create jobs and pay taxes ultimately. So there was alignment on strategy. There was a willingness to do stuff that didn't work, right? So if I think through the list of all the activities that we have done with the city and state over the years, you know, some worked and some didn't. And the trick was, if it wasn't working, you had a conversation, you shut it down, and you moved on to the next thing. And then there was an understanding of, you know, what every party could bring to the table, because people brought different things. And so our organization is from the business community. We're not public sector funded, we're independent. And so we can come and be the voice of the experts from the business community, which were very helpful, because I know when the Alexandria Center was an RFEI for this place, we actually brought in some private equity investors who were doing real estate and life sciences to meet with the city to talk about what they were seeing in terms of the market trends and what could they expect from a developer, to help sort of set them up for negotiation that ultimately led to success. So it was that combination. So, you know, the city had the site, it was they were running the process, but then we brought sort of expertise to help inform decisions. And there was a willingness on the part of the city to listen to the expertise. So I think that's the combination of the two things. And then understanding, you know, what does it take, because we spent a certain amount of time on our own and with the city lobbying, yes, I'm a registered lobbyist, lobbying Albany and the city to get the significant and important resources that are currently available for early stage life science companies. And it was everything from the funding to create a clean piece of dirt here so Alexandria could make their investment. It was putting the tax credits in place. It was kind of providing, if you will, the underpinning data and ideas to make the case to the elected officials so that we could all join hands together and move forward with what is now $1.5 billion of incentives of various kinds, filling various gaps that are on the table to build the industry. So it was a combination, but it was a true understanding and a willingness of both sides to work with each other, to collaborate, and to, you know, on some level, share credit and willing to say the state's doing this, the city's doing this, the partnership is helping this way, that I think have really made, and that's what a partnership is each party brings what they do well to the table and you collaborate.
So looking forward, let's see, we have 11 minutes left, and I promise to not stand between you and another cocktail. So looking forward, we've talked about the things that we did right early on, right? We've talked about the successes that have flowed from those decisions and hard work and people bringing to the table. What would you say, I'm going to throw this to everybody, would you say we're at an inflection point? And if we are, what can we do going forward to not only ensure continued success, but really an elevation of the sector within the region and, frankly, the world?
So I think leadership is absolutely key at all levels. So Alexandria is the biggest landlord, you know, in New York City. We're the most active venture investor, but the dollars that are here, even with Two Bear coming on, the real estate that's continuing to expand here, if we don't have the right talent shepherding the science along, we're just going to kind of continue along at this pace, which could be fine. But we need to continue to help attract leadership that really knows how to build biotech companies and that knows how to put together life science and technology kind of into this 21st century in a material way. To me, the talent and leadership, and it's not just leaders of the companies, but it's also, if I can, leaders at academic medical centers locally. I mean, what Orin has done, and I'm really not trying to be overly gratuitous, but like what you have done for your institution in terms of the life sciences, you led that effort in terms of Columbia, and Columbia is the biggest, has the most startups of any of any other institution in the city, I think. Or yeah, you track it. I'm pretty sure it's true.
Someone fact check.
But yeah, fact check. No, but I think, more leadership at the academic medical center level to really kind of, again, encourage that life science leadership. I mean, obviously, the great leadership that's in the city within the EDC is awesome, and you hear life sciences being so important through every administration. I think that's awesome. But yeah, just leadership really at every single level, I think will help kind of raise, raise all ships, if you will.
And I think there are two parts to that. To my answer, one is how can we do to support companies like Sanavia or others that are going to be reaching growth stage, again, providing us space, lab space, office space, as well as, I think beyond that, opportunities, facilities that will help us with our FDA approvals or clinical developments would be critical for companies like us too, so that we can stay in New York. Vivariums, manufacturing facilities. So I think that is, Alexandria has already shown leadership to build that before we get to that point. And I think the second part is how can we facilitate ideas coming out of academia, because that fuels the companies coming there. And again, I believe there is a role to the tech transfer offices at the universities, as well as seed stage venture capital firms like Two Bear Capital, to form partnerships so that they can support ideas, entrepreneurs coming out of academia. And we should invest in both of those areas to keep companies growing, as well as feed it with new ideas.
Maria?
I think two key gaps are still remaining are lack of enough early stage capital. So we're really happy to have early stage funders come to New York. Relative to what the rest of New York has, which is we got a ton of money here, but mostly it's later stage. And the risk profile of the investors in science is not as robust as it is in other locations, particularly in the West Coast and in Boston. So our VC community, which is very robust in tech, it's just a different risk profile when you're investing in biology. So early stage capital is number one. I think there's still, you hear there's still a talent gap, and that is not on the science side, but it's more on the 8 to 10 years out clinical staff. They know that. So a lot of them are sitting in New Jersey. We got to figure out a way to bring them here. But I think that's still, there's not as much as you'd like. And I think also we need a big IPO, right? With 5, we have Intracellular was a very good one. So hurry up, hire 1,000 people,
pressure.
Go public, and become the dandelion that then sends all your senior managers out to create the next generation of companies.
Plus one on that. Although there actually are a lot of promising ones that are getting closer, which is really exciting. I think we're on a really great path. I think back, when I started this 17 years ago, I was at the Boston Consulting Group for 7 years prior to coming to Columbia. The way I found out about this crazy world is because I was doing a project for the Bloomberg administration on why New York City wasn't Boston or San Francisco. And actually the first interview I did was with Maria, who totally schooled me and said everything I said was wrong. But she was right, as it turns out. But I think this has really been a story about concerted effort by a lot of people maintaining the work over many years. And when you look at, if at Columbia, when I got there, there was really almost no support for entrepreneurship and there was a lot of science, there was a lot of licensing, there was a lot of patents, but people were largely on their own to go figure it out after that. And now if you look at Columbia, we have, we've systematically gone through and said, what do all of our academic entrepreneurs need to be able to be successful? And then we've just gone one by one and tried to create programs around each of those to make. And by the way, if people are interested, I have a short, Orin.Herskowitz at columbia.edu. I have a short deck on that with like all the resources that were needed and all the resources we put in place. But I bet that Mark over at NYU, maybe raise your hand, has essentially the same programs in place. And I'm guessing Sloan Kettering does, and Cornell does, and the others do as well. Like the whole town has changed. New York is not afraid of hard work. We're not afraid of hustle. And I think that that is evident in the successes that we're now seeing.
Great, thank you. So we just have a few minutes left. So I'd like to think, this is for each of you. So we've talked about sort of what we can do for next. What is, throwing away the sheet, okay. What is your favorite thing about being in life sciences in New York? For each of you. Lightning round.
It's like I don't have my PhD, but if I had my PhD in anything, it might be in New York Life Sciences at this point. No, I've spent the past 10 years really, laser focused with our team on this. I think someone said it before, maybe it was in the, I actually think the community is really exceptional. I think the fact that it's homegrown, I think that everyone that's doing anything here, like you hear the passion, you hear the tenacity, and also the perseverance. And, this has been going on, Maria, you said, since 1998, 1999. We came on the scene in 2001. I think Joel Marcus, the then CEO, now chairman, was at that meeting with Sandy Weil. That's how we kind of got involved. But anyway, but people that are involved in this community really care because it feels like you're building something. And so I've never been an entrepreneur like you, but the most entrepreneurial thing that I've done in my career was at Alexandria, really trying to build a community here, not just to fill the buildings, but really to create an industry or help create an industry and partner in creating an industry in New York City that never existed. When do you have that opportunity to create a new industry in this city? So I think that passion, the tenacity, the perseverance, and the community that's been formed by amazing, brilliant scientists, and people that are passionate about the life sciences is truly exceptional here.
I came to New York 20 years ago, almost to date, to do my PhD because I thought this would be the place to be to pursue my dreams. I think that's a common theme for everyone who comes to New York or who stays in New York. We're resilient. We want to do big things and we want to change things. And it comes down to people. I think that my favorite thing about being an entrepreneur, biotech entrepreneur, is New York is the people that I meet and the people that I work with, because the ideas coming from them, we have an opportunity to test it, and then the vision is there's nothing big enough in New York City, right? We want to change things, and once we get there, I think we'll get the support from the city and the universities as well. The opportunity and the people that we work with, I think, is my favorite things in New York.
I love scientists. They're smart, they're endlessly curious, and they work on really hard stuff.
I love most scientists. No, actually, I was just reflecting. This isn't really about New York in particular, but about life sciences. I'm an English major, so I'm not a scientist at all. But we have a guy in our office, Jerry Kokoschka. Many of you probably have met Jerry over the years. He's been in the office for a very long time. And every year, basically, he says, what I love about this job is I wake up in the morning and I try to cure cancer. And, I'm not a scientist. He's not a scientist. He's not at the bench. But he's playing some really important role in all of these shots on goal that we have to make life better for a lot of people. And I think between life sciences and climate, and where another area where New York is strong and growing really, really fast, we have a real chance to change people's lives for the good. That's incredibly exciting.
Thank you. My favorite thing, so just, yes, I'll answer it too, is I came to NewYorkBIO 5 years ago from Merck, and no, I was not across the river. But I think my favorite thing has been so I came from a large organization, and before that I was at GSK, so another large organization, and it has been really the entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like you all have talked about, right? You meet people, they're here because they want to be here, because they want to grow something. And then I think we can't also underestimate, and we haven't talked about this because this really wasn't the panel, but the impact of our patient organizations and our research foundations that are also here in New York City and in the region, and the work that they do to help with both patient access as well as affordability and research. So I think that has been my favorite thing about being engaged over the last 5 years.
Yeah, one thing you just reminded me of is also, and we're still there, which is really a beautiful thing as far as thinking about community, is that each company that's been formed and then each new venture capital group and truly that comes here and shows an interest in New York is really welcomed, in this way in some form, because it actually makes a difference still, which is pretty cool and pretty, exceptional. And so while we want to get big and kind of, continue to expand on the likes of, Boston or Kendall Square, Bay Area, wherever, it's like that, to not lose that, I think, is actually something pretty unique, and hopefully we can kind of preserve that over time.
So thank you to Two Bear. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for putting down roots in New York City. We look forward to working together. And now you are all dismissed to go back networking into the bar.